new thing. Nobody, it's not something that people haven't heard about sport. We find participation generally falls at that stage. And a lot of that is that what we're offering isn't necessarily what kids want. So, and that's in the traditional space. If you're able to take that opportunity to leverage that they want something different, they want things that are flexible, that fit around their work schedules, that fit around school, social, that aren't competitive, then I think you're in a really nice position to kill that side of the market. There's so much potential. We just, we need to find the opportunities that kids actually want to do in that space. So I guess I really wanted you to have the opportunity to ask me about how you might fit the criteria. So how do you, as an outdoor activity, make an 8-week program that would satisfy our needs? What does flexible mean from our perspective? What does it look like to run something across a year? How might you bundle a series of events for young people or a training program? How might you partner with another agency to offer a multi-sport, multi-activity program that would satisfy those needs? I guess I just wanted to let you have that opportunity to quiz me on any of the rules, or if you've tried to apply and you've been knocked back, asking those questions on how you can do things slightly differently to make sure that you're satisfying our program requirements, but also providing those really great alternatives that we don't currently have in the system. So I'll stop talking now.
Oh, that's great, Jackie. So some ideas around how you think our guys could amend their product to, well, not amend their product, but how do you think they can fit with the program and comply with the your requirements, when you know some of these guys are quite distant to capital city areas and may not offer something every week for someone to be part of?
Yeah, so we have a couple of, you're not alone in this. There are interesting sports and activities that are really difficult to structure in the way that we've asked. So surfing, for example, quite often you have 3-4 days of surfing lessons and then you surf for life. So for them, it was about trying to understand, how do I package up what I actually offer ongoing? So what is the benefit I'm giving to the kids? So one of the things that they looked at is the competition space. And I think this is something that you all work in this space. So what they've done is they've packaged up a membership, which includes your membership to Outdoor New South Wales or to whoever your local group is. And within that includes a participation in a series of events that go across the year. So those events may run during school holidays, and you have a summer event, a winter event. You've got a couple of events which would add up to 8 weeks, not full weeks, but 8 sessions across a year. They don't have to fit our $100. So you don't have to modify your offering to be $100. That might cost someone to get that membership and participation in all of those events. That event package might cost you $350. That's okay. Sorry, that's just a number I plucked out of my head. That's okay. What you do is you charge them a $350 and reduce it by the 100, and the voucher is used for that component. Your program is eligible because it goes across the year. It covers the physical activity component and it satisfies the 8 weeks across a year. In some of the really, really regional remote locations, I'll be very, very kind to you and you can do less than 8 weeks. Because we understand it's really, really hard. It's really hard in those locations. And the former director and I used to go out quite frequently to the really remote regional locations, and it's really hard to run programs more frequently out there. The weather also prohibits a lot of stuff. So we are understanding and we will modify around that. But a single school holiday program just wouldn't cut it. But if you were to package that up across a year and include a few different things, then that would be one way.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about partnering. So there was a land care group out west, and within their program, they started out with bird watching, and I rejected bird watching. they modified that, and we talked about what a package would look like, how they support their young people. It is structured, supervised bushwalks that ran across a period of time. They also partnered with golf. So there was an educational component. We don't mind if the education is along the side. So whilst they're playing golf in a space, understanding the water management and what happens in a particular location, that's totally fine if you've got education isn't a detractor, as long as the physical element is happening there. So they partnered with another sport, and they were able to run something that actually went across 2 years, across the summer season, so from November all the way through to about June.
Yeah, great.
They had 2 activities that they bundled together to go across the year, which included it. So it was their full education program. Those are so that's 2 kind of models that you could look at. One is packaging a series of events that you have, and the other is partnering with someone to run a program yourself.
Great. And I think to extend that, one of the conversations we had is different organizations partnering as well. So you not just in product and delivery, but actually probably 2 separate different areas, and they could partner together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we acknowledge this, ski and snow, you're in a really tricky space. There's a contained period during which you can do stuff, and it's very expensive. And we acknowledge that, and I can't unfortunately change that, because what we're looking at is participation and ongoing participation, and supporting kids to continue the physical activity. What you can do, so where you're looking at a couple of different organizations, is you've got a ski component, and then you've got when there's no snow, what's happening, what does that outdoor activity look like? How are you utilizing that space in a different way? Is there an additional program, like a fitness program, that they go to the gym and they're doing a series of structured programs that complement the ski season and the other element? So it doesn't have to just be the one thing. You can actually put together things that make sense to you and work with other organizations to make sure that you can satisfy those needs across the program.
Yeah, great. Stuart, can you just mention how you do it? Because I know this is something that you've looked at and you're involved in. How does Scouts do it again?
Yeah, so we over the membership, so we subscribe for the two tickets, so it goes towards the membership reduction of Scouts to the members.
Brilliant.
So we charge X amount, and that $100 is just wiped off their fees for the groups. So each group gets will invoice differently, because each group will charge different rates depending on what they might charge for their programs, because they might have a different their power bills might be more expensive, might use more power or whatever, and any badges that they might give out, it's all consumed within the price structure within each groups, but it's then endorsed by the state branches and stuff.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I'm probably going to know the answer to Kelly's question, and we won't get into borders and releasing of borders for any period of time. But Kelly asked, as a Queenslander, can she accept New South Wales people under this scheme?
Yeah, so that's a murky one, but yes. So depending on where in Queensland you are, the answer may be yes. We have a reciprocal arrangement with the Queensland government, because they're the only sensible government in the rest of around our borders that has a similar voucher scheme. Sorry for picking on you, ACT. But so what that means is, if you're close to the border, or you're currently eligible on the Queensland side for the Queensland program, you are able to accept the New South Wales vouchers, and we can support you through the registration process on that. There are some locations. So, for example, I've spent some time out in Toomela and Boggabilla. Goondiwindi is absolutely acceptable, even though that's on Queensland side. Within the program, because it is the closest location for anything on this side of New South Wales border. Everything else is hundreds of k's away. So yes, depending on which bit of Queensland you're in. But yes, I'll send you the email and you can
Perfect. Thank you, Jackie.
Absolutely.
And if you wouldn't mind putting in the contact in the chat just for Active Kids, because I think we've got a very low percentage of our operators participating in this, and I saw it as an opportunity when I spoke to you, and I think everyone needs to have a look at how they can get access through this program to help them get into this space. Thank you very much. That's awesome. Now, the next discussion, Simon, I can see you there. And if you want to unmute yourself, and I'll share the screen with you.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, certainly can.
Cool, cool.
I've asked Simon to come along because he's approached us about what's actually happening down at the Snow this year, and it's a contact thank you to David for bringing him to this forum. But actually, I'll just hand over to you because you can explain it better than I can, Simon. So over to you.
Cool. Alrighty. So my name's Simon Murray. I'm the president of the Mountain Sports Collective. We are an independent user group association for human-powered alpine sports or backcountry sports. So everything from snowshoeing, mountaineering, splitboarding, Nordic skiing, cross-country skiing, alpine touring. The list goes on as the kids come up with new and different things to do. So our genesis, actually, I've got a presentation, and it's 5 years old. And I just sort of thought, maybe that will be handy. So I'm going to share screen because in all reality, the pitch hasn't changed in 10 years, 5 years specifically, but this thing, I'll put it up now. Here we go. All right, can everyone see that? Is everyone looking at that? Yeah, cool. So, what we were looking at is obviously mountains and people has always been a challenge. The interface between the two are changing, and we were looking at why. It was like, why was there suddenly in Victoria, which is where I'm sitting currently, although we are a national organisation, the incidence was exponential. So people were getting caught out a lot, and we had more and more critical and fatal incidents occurring. And it was like, why? Because we should be getting better at this, not worse at this. Our history dates back to the 1880s. That's actually Canama Hut, which was destroyed in an avalanche in, I think it was 1920, around about. And, why is the rest of the world getting more and more advanced? Well, we continue to lag within the realm of alpine safety communication, which we kind of look at and feel is the first port and call for communicating to the public around alpine hazards. So in consultation, it was quite obvious that there was something of an old school versus new school. There was within the community, there was an intuition that or a breakdown in the sharing of communication around alpine hazards, and also the all important mentoring and handing over of skills learned before with regards to surviving blizzards and snowpack hazards and ice. So it became apparent that the guys that we were looking at out in the field weren't the old guard. They were new participants, and generally within this forum, these guys are independent public participants, not school groups. So although a lot of schoolmates end up continuing on in this journey and become recreational participants, which I feel is relevant to this forum. And all this imagery is in Australia, so you can kind of, if you flick back, you can see the difference, right? Simply accessing steeper terrain has become the real challenge for us, and also the technology, the rapid advancement in technology that enables people of a lesser technical ability to access grander and grander alpine terrain. You jump the fence, it's pretty cool, it's what the cool kids do. and then all of a sudden it feels like you're in a Red Bull video, and from that point onwards, it's very hard to talk people around that perhaps their conduct's endangering others, let alone themselves. We estimate, so this is 5 years ago what we're looking at here. This research started 10 years ago, and we benchmark 7,000 backcountry users then. And I think that's still consistent. I think it was possibly optimistic at the time, but we know that there's 1,000 new recreational participants a year at a minimum in each region. So this figure is growing by 2,000 people a year. And add COVID to that, I don't want to even think what the figures are right now. So then we looked at a few of the hazards. So we look at a 3 hazard metric, which is obviously the weather, and it has impacts around exposure and navigation challenges. We look at also surface conditions, particularly ice, which has connections to sort of breakable crusts and a variety of fairly rubbishy Australian skiing conditions that can also inherently lead to trouble. And then thirdly, avalanche, and the ranking and listing of that is important because that is presented in the frequency with which these incidents occur. We also kind of combating something of a user behavioural issue. So in this photo here, I'm not sure, but if you recognise, this is actually avalanche terrain that's fallen from this steep slope, and the debris is fanning out towards Blue Lake, which is up in New South Wales. And yet, while this incident took place, someone died. There's someone buried, unfortunately, in that, or was in that, involved in this, and it was a fatal incident. You could still have a conversation with a local retailer telling you that avalanche beacons were rubbish. And I think the most important thing that we've done over the last 5 years is to have carried that behavioural change conversation through to the point where that style of narrative is rapidly decreasing and increasingly not considered to be current. And that's because of the shift. People were saying that, and like the photos that I was showing you earlier where it's flat compared to this stuff, it's like, yeah, it's true. Like avalanches weren't a problem when no one was accessing steep terrain. So avalanche has kind of grown into that 3-part matrix due to technical ability and the internet and Instagram and everyone living their best lives and sharing it with everyone. So we see a few of those. And those surface conditions with regards to ice, for example, this is a search and rescue helicopter in Victoria looking for a state government minister, actually, who lost his footing at Mount Feathertop. He was actually on the other side of this hill, so the helicopter never found them. He was out there for 24 hours. And at that time, there's also this resistance to taking practical prevention hardware. In this example, ice axes and crampons would have saved this minister, but instead it was a multi-$1,000 rescue. So we promote stuff like that. Avalanches don't happen in Australia. It's like, well, how did this 700-year-old snow gum end up traveling 200 meters down a hill? So they've combated a culture of ignorance, and I think we're getting to the point now where we've got a really good culture out there. Like when I'm traveling in the mountains with my colleagues, we're often looking and commenting amongst ourselves that people are avoiding some of the really nuanced avalanche hazards. There's still people being caught out by ice, but that's inevitable because it's sometimes everywhere. Last year, I think we recorded 6 consecutive weeks where the ice hazard at the main range was high. And unfortunately in Victoria, there was a fatality at Mount Bogong, which was directly attributable to that terrain surface condition. This image here is the very slope in which 2 Victorians were killed in an avalanche in 2015, which was sort of the spearhead of this project that we were that we launched alongside Ski Patrol on account of the fact that everyone in our sphere knew very clearly that avalanche danger was high, yet these guys unfortunately hadn't intercepted that communication because the focus was too narrow, and also the ways in which they were accessing the terrain wasn't conducive or wasn't consistent with a standard for safe travel in avalanche terrain. And we are learning the whole way in this process. And if what I know now compared to when I penned this, and I put this photo of Buddha in here, are quite starkly different. It's a learning process, and luck favours the prepared. So our platform is really about providing backcountry condition reports. It's not advice. It's simply representing how we feel the day is on any given day, and this is a daily vigil that we're operating. Because when you know what the problem is, it helps you to prepare for it. So here are those numbers, and this is actually old. I think that the incidence of avalanche involvement, that 5%, has gone up. I also think that the uncontrolled slides and ice is up from here. I would think that in general, we look at it as equal thirds now. And then we go into some of the heuristics around, the fact that participants they get a confirmation bias that what they're doing is good because they don't die straight away. And it's how long can you continue in that cycle until something goes very badly wrong. Because this style of alpine adventure, you won't know about it until you're too far in, which is another thing that we're always trying to combat. I'll just jump forward. We have got the people that provide this service to us at various but very high levels of alpine safety, education and training. But obviously the thing that's always changing is the weather. Now, the single factor that can be plotted over time with regards to climate change, and I'm sure that most of this panel is privy to it, is the increase in wind velocity associated with advancing southerly pressure changes. And with that brings both the increase in the ice hazard, snow transportation, which is leading to the increase in avalanche, the frequency with which avalanche conditions occur. So it's all a little bit nerdy right now, but I think what we'll do now is I'll jump out of here and get back to where I'll just stop sharing, say hi to everyone again, and then jump into the website, because the website is the resource and the website is the basis of the platform. And it's where you can go to find out what our field experts are thinking on any given day, which is a really great resource. Okay, it starts off with can everyone see that? Yep. And this disclaimer is sort of, we're paring it back as we become more of a public safety platform and less of a rogue cowboy unit. And I think this, and in summary, I'll get to some of the challenges that COVID has thrown into stark relief, the disparity between where Victoria is at with this regard and where New South Wales and obviously ACT as a user group sit currently, because there's a difference there. So then you click into the site. This is how the site represents. If anyone's travelled overseas, they're probably familiar with, or anyone travelled to participate in backcountry sports, probably the first thing that you did, if not before leaving, would be to check in with each region's Alpine Travel Advisory. So for example, this is what we developed. This is how it looks. That's me as the advisory officer. And this was from Thursday last week. And it was pretty good, apart from the fact that there was breakable crust on a thin cover, which when you stack it up against itself, it's actually not great. and we have 3 levels. I'll scan you through slowly the kind of reportage that we're covering. And I'll take you into some of the gritty, because what we're trying to develop here is a standard for, risk management, basically, which is the way that this stuff works internationally. This is all on the site. You can visit the advisory tutorial over here, and it'll step you through all of the hazards that we're reporting on. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to this metric here. I'll just zoom in on that so that we can all see, for those people who are already looking at smaller screens. We've got good outcomes, which it would be, for example, good visibility, low avalanche danger, and stable and favourable weather conditions. And then they all increasingly deteriorate. And as they deteriorate, they earn scores, and these scores can then be summarised, literally summarised into a score that might be representative of what the challenges that you'll face in the field look like, with the best being caution, usual caution, a normal caution. It's always caution. It's never not caution, ranging through to travel not recommended. There's a lot of detail, obviously, on this stuff, as you can see, because you can go into any of the individual areas and find out about how we're both measuring and reporting some of the hazards. So I think this is kind of, sorry.
That's all right. I'm just conscious of time because I know other people have got other commitments, but do you want to just quickly, so where you're up to at the moment, you're working quite closely with the Victorian side, and at the moment we're now connecting into the New South Wales side. And I know Anthony, I don't know if he's on the line, but he was certainly hoping to join us from National Parks. So where you up to at the moment in New South Wales is you're progressing this?
Yeah, so we're right now at this point in Victoria, as an example, we've secured, well, I don't want to talk about a deal until it's signed, and this is in confidence, but we're very close to having sealed the deal to provide a international level of alpine travel advice. So we've contracted a Canadian level 3 professional. So and at level 3, he's the instructor to instructors. So he instructs instructors. We're very lucky to have him. Consequently, he's actually based in New South Wales. So he's a resource that's available to us. But unfortunately, as it stands now, with 2 different cost centres, as you can see on the screen, his service will be available only to Victorians with that international standard, on account of the fact that our funding streams in New South Wales have not, that we're lagging behind, and I'm, I've got a dollar figure of 12 grand. What we're developing is not at the exclusion of New South Wales, and if anything, we can carry New South Wales on this journey. Only we just need those cold hard dollars to pay for the forecaster himself, but also more importantly, I'll just change back and get back onto me. More importantly are the people who are the field observers, of which there's a high possibility that some of the people in this forum can help and participate with this, as Dave hopefully will be leaning on in Victoria. It's really, it's quite simple observations at its lowest level on a day-to-day basis, leading into snow science, which is an area, but we have the professionals to do that. So we're looking for funding, we're looking for resource to provide that for New South Wales and ACT participants in the snowy mountain regions of New South Wales currently. And also, I just want to add, on the call is Peter Herring is the Mountain Sports Collective Regional Director. So this, unfortunately, I'm going to do that, sort of slide out of frame and then leave it to Peter, because she's the person who's going to be spearheading all of these conversations. I'm happy to sit in, but
great,
she's really
wonderful.
the contact.
So I think probably what's key is, if anyone's really interested to know a lot more and connect with you, certainly let me know and I can connect everyone, and certainly try to get this happening in some way, shape or form. Anthony, I know, is on the line, but pushed for time. We might bring Anthony back at another time to address from the National Park side, because I know they're looking at there he is, looking at a new registration process. Anthony, did you want to just quickly touch on that for backcountry?
Yeah, more than happy to. Thanks for having me on, Laurie. And certainly keen to talk to yourself and Simon more about this MSC product, which looks fantastic. Just in terms of New South Wales, I guess as quickly as I can, to try and meet our COVID requirements this year, we've worked with the resorts who have developed a COVID-safe plan, and some of the inputs we've had to make sure that the whole Snow Mountains area is as COVID-safe as possible, as we're requiring all backcountry skiers, basically anyone doing sports activity away from the resorts, cross-country skiing, backcountry skiing, splitboarding, whatever, to use a trip in. I mean, for the user groups that Simon deals with, that's just bread and butter safety anyway. It's probably new to a lot of other people, but this year we are going to mandate it just so we can keep a track of visitors, where they are, how many there are, and if we do have an outbreak, we can do COVID tracing, contact tracing, I beg your pardon, and also we do expect an increase in people using the backcountry this year because of restrictions in the resort. And that's no doubt going to lead to some increased issues regarding search and rescue, despite all the best work that the likes of Simon and his group do. So these trip intention forms are an essential part of that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thanks for jumping on at such late notice as well. Thank you, Simon. Really great. As I say, if you want more information, let me know. I just wanted to wrap up by just reminding you a couple of things, because your CEO really forgot to press the record button earlier on. And so anyone that missed this session is going to miss some of those key reminders. So for those that need to leave, I understand, but just quickly refreshing, the AHPPC, which is the health statement around boarding, came out yesterday. It certainly indicated a relaxing in some of the requirements of camp provisions. So we're using that to talk with the Department of Education on how we can resume camps quicker than reviewing in term 3. So watch this space on that, but please jump onto the survey link that's on our Facebook page and any of the social media channels. We need the data, so please fill that out and let us know how that might affect you the longer we leave this resumption of camps. The school holiday package page, if you've got school holiday packages, please let us know. We'll throw it onto the website. Reminder about the SEEK portal. If you're advertising for jobs, let us know your SEEK ID number. The referral network is also on our page. So if you want to share in a regional area the business and make sure that the sector benefits, please jump on that. The risk management session, I put into the chat the link to that video. So if you missed that and you wanted to get a recap, it's there for you. And as of the 1st of July, the $3,000 grants are available by the New South Wales government if you're resuming activities. Next week, next Friday, it's really important that you register. We have a maximum of 100 that we can accept on these calls, and I expect quite a volume because we've got the Department of Education coming onto our forum, who'll be answering questions around the resumption of camps. So make sure you register for that one. And the other person that's coming on is actually coming out of the discussion that happened at the risk management session. We talked about media training, and we talked about the ability to respond in the unforeseeable circumstance of a problem, whether it be a COVID outbreak or just a risk of someone hurting themselves or at worst dying on our watch, and how we respond to media. So we've taken that on board, and next week we have a media professional coming to talk to you about some of those hints and tips to think about, but she's also offering a special rate to all Outdoors New South Wales and ACT members, a special rate for an intensive 2.5-hour session on media training. So more information on that next week. So jump on and register. Make sure you're here, same time, same place next week. So without further ado, I'm happy to hang back for any other questions, but I will let you go because we're 7 minutes over time, and I'm deeply apologetic for that, but there was a lot of content today, all great stuff. And thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.